Thinking maybe we should put our faces on first to say hi and introduce ourselves.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
All right, man. I'm going live. Here we go.
Do it.
Okay, guys. So here we are. I guess as people start funneling in the room, we'll let them in, but we're gonna get started. So we kind of changed up the platform today. We're bringing in Lance and myself to kind of work together on the whole thing. So
Yes,
Lance,
sir.
take it away. You introduce yourself.
Hey guys, how's it going? I can't really see anything right now, but we're working out some kinks and we're going to get this thing rocking. Our plan is to bring as much value to everyone joining us as possible. And so we're going to work on a lot of things, all things real estate, a lot of multifamily focus. We're also going to be bringing in guest speakers, which would be fun. We brought one in Tuesday. Gabe Hamill came on and dropped some bombs on creative finance strategies. And so, yeah, we're excited to, get this thing rocking and, add value to you guys.
Absolutely, man. So I'm trying to improve my whiteboard skills because my whiteboard skills have been like less than impressive. So I'm trying to get on Pace's level with the whiteboarding, man. I plan on bringing a little bit of like, whiteboarding to it today, analyzing multifamily, but kind of like the three most important, I think, pieces of analyzing a multifamily deal, or when you're first going into it. I know that before when we had talked, that Justin had mentioned the 1% rule, and I mean, I don't know how I feel about the 1% rule, right? I think it's good in some markets and bad in others, but that's the problem. You never really know if that 1% rule, to me, is going to kind of pan out the way that you want it to. So I guess I thought like today that we would maybe start off and just talk about kind of the three main components, or I feel. Justin's also here. Justin can chime in about it too. So anyways, man, anything new with anybody in the room before we get started? We're kind of trying to change up the format a little bit and open it up for discussion. Maybe like Lance, we can find out if anybody's got deals going on or.
Yeah. How's it going? Hey, Kate. Hey, Violet. Good to see you guys on. Any guys that got any questions? Any deals you're working on that anyone's got any questions on that we might be able to help you?
Has Kate found my laundromat yet? She's been out hunting for a laundromat.
So yesterday I spent about an hour looking on this website.
Can you introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, I'm Kate. I'm out here in Houston. I would consider myself a new wholesaler / bird dog. Have yet to do a deal, but it's coming.
Nice.
So I basically just try to find sub-2 students and see what y'all are looking for, and then find that and, connect and build relationships. So yesterday I spent about an hour on this website. It was called like Biz Buy Sell or something. And they had quite a few laundromats. So I just signed the NDAs that I was sent, but I haven't gotten anything yet. So, and about that other one that
at the bit, I'm foaming at the mouth.
Did I tell you that the other guy, the 55K one, he said he was in closing, and if it falls through, he'll let us know?
Yeah. So I'll play runner up. Did he mention anything about the deal? Like what are they? Creative? Is it just a loan? Like, what are they doing?
No, and I didn't ask.
That's okay. Yeah. So no big deal. We'll find one. It's out there just waiting on us. I can't wait to open up a place to help people wash their laundry.
Yep.
That's funny.
So, hey, Justin, man. So just to open it up a bit, I've been watching, some of the stuff that you provided for me, and I found it really interesting, man. I've been learning a lot. I've been, really diving into that stuff. And I know that you had mentioned the 1% rule. And I know that that's there, but I also know, from having talked to other people that the 1% rule is kind of not always an end all beat all, right? It's like,
Of course, yeah.
it can fluctuate with market. And so as I was looking in some of the information that you gave me, and I think, you'll obviously probably be aware of this stuff, but I found the three most important ratios that they look for when they're analyzing a deal. And I thought that was really interesting, right? That 6-9 1.4 rule. And I kind of thought I'd go over that today because it seems like, it takes a little longer than the 1%, but it seems like a better way maybe to drill in and say like, okay, is this, a legitimate deal or not? What do you think?
Yeah. I think the 1% rule is just a good way of knowing whether something's worth your time to even spend the time starting to underwrite, right? But I think once that's established, going into the ratios that you're talking about is a good way to go about it. And then going further into underwriting after that.
Yeah. So basically is like, well, the 1% rule is like, is it even worth doing the napkin? Right.
Exactly.
If you didn't pass that, you don't even
Exactly.
go to that.
It's such an easy formula that you can do within, 3 minutes of getting the documents from the agent, from the broker, and just knowing whether it's worth your time at all. And then you dive deeper in. So
yeah. So I guess I just figured, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't do. As soon as I get a deal, 1% rule, okay, we're at least in that margin somewhere.
Yeah.
And then this is probably where I would head with it. And give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to close my office door. I left it open because my crazy kids are home and they're just light this place up like a wildfire here. Hold on just a second. All right, and I'm back. So anyways, let's dive right in, right? So
Let's do it.
I'll be doing some whiteboarding. So obviously we get the memo, right? And we know that, actually, let me scroll this guy all the way up. So we get the memo. My writing still needs a little work, but that's all right. And then the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get the 10-time valuation.
What you're writing is not showing up on the screen.
I think you're a little high. Maybe it's a little. Oh, you can actually move the screen on your.
There we go. Holy
I can move it. That's
I swear, guys. I
see it
swear
now.
one day I'm going to get good at whiteboarding. I don't know how Pace does it, man. It's amazing.
It's funny. We can actually move the screen on our monitor. Our monitor is trippy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's probably what's going on.
Yeah, I see it now. I had to scroll up too.
Yeah. So all that we're going to do is we're going to get the yearly income. So we're going to get the yearly income. Let me get back here.
Violet said that can the people on YouTube see it to make sure it's centered.
Oh, can they see it, Violet? Can the people on YouTube see it now?
I see it on Facebook.
Okay, good.
Okay, cool.
Good. I'm working on it. I promise I'm going to get better every time we do this.
Yes, sir.
And then we're going to get our expenses, and that's going to give us an NOI. Okay. So just to be clear for everybody, NOI is our net operating income. Okay. And then I'm going to close this guy real quick. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our NOI. We're going to multiply that by 10. And that's going to give us an approximate value. Okay. Let me move this down just a bit so everybody can keep up here.
And I just want to add right now, because
Sure.
I think it's a good time. This is why pushing your NOI, reducing your expenses, increasing your rents is and forcing the appreciation of your property is so amazing in multifamily, right? In single family, we talk about comps, so on and so forth. Everything in multifamily is based off of the valuation of a property is based off of the NOI. And every dollar that you increase your NOI increases the valuation of the property times 10. So think of it that way. I mean, that's huge.
That makes
right?
sense.
Yeah.
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 Thanks for
And
adding
by
that.
the way, Kate, yes, memorandum, offering memorandum. Yes. Yeah. And I'm pulling most of these numbers from financials. I'm skipping through all the fluff, all the beautiful pictures. Sure, I want to look at those, but I'm more interested in the financials. So let's move just up the screen a bit here. And then what we're going to look at is our second one. So we're going to come in, we're going to get our 3 most important rules. And we're going to have, I would call them, Justin, and you can add to this, but like rules of thumb, right? This isn't the end all be all. We're just kind of giving ourselves a bit of a guideline, right? So we're looking for our cap rate. We want to be close to 6% or 6% or over, right? And then we're looking for our cash on cash. And we're looking at that being 9% or above. Now, I will say, Justin, and I think you will say too, I'm looking for double-digit cash on cash return at the end of the day. And I think a lot of that is represented in our underwriting. But I believe that this at least gets us close, right? This is, yeah. So, and so the last that I'm looking for is my debt service ratio. And I want that to be 1.4% or more.
And this actually comes, this is really important when you're looking for institutional lending. They're looking at your debt service ratio is how much income is and it's actually not a percentage there, Damon. It's
it's 1.4.
it's a multiple. Yeah. They want to know that your income on the property is 1.4 times the expenses, so that you can cover your debt essentially.
Awesome. So everybody good with that? Everybody got that? All right, we're gonna move down and move on a bit, right? So in terms of the cap rate, we'll expand on that a bit, right? And we'll say my cap rate is my NOI divided by my purchase price. Does that make sense? Pretty easy there. And then we're going to go to our cash on cash. And in our cash on cash, again, kind of like Justin said, when we raise the cash flow, it's for every dollar, it's a $10 value. And we're looking at this to see how quickly we can make our money back. And my understanding of this, and Justin can expand, is that the cap rate is kind of more important to us. The cash on cash is more important to our lender. And the debt service is more important to our lender. And the cash on cash is more important to our investors. So I guess if we can gauge kind of the audience that we're doing this for. So if we look at our cash on cash, that's our NOI minus our debt service divided. Oh, it's going to be a long one. We'll see if we can fit it all in on the screen. Acquisition costs. And our acquisition cost is the money needed to acquire the property. That would be our down payment, or whatever we're coming into this property at.
Yeah, it's going to be your down payment, your capital expenditures, your closing costs,
Right.
all of that.
Okay, so Justin, do you want to expand on the cash on cash anymore to kind of help people understand why that cash on cash is so important?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you're talking about taking money from investors and really specifically syndications where people are passive, they are looking for a return on investment, and it usually gets paid out quarterly. So their cash on cash at a percentage of 9% or higher, it beats the typical stock market. And so that's really why you want to be in that realm where cash on cash comes into play with the JV agreement or you just buying out an apartment building. That's your monthly cash flow. And same with everything we do in the single family realm. It allows you to build your spending money, your wealth, your so on, as you hold on to this property. And then cash on cash combined with the disposition of the property gives you your final rate of return. After you've operated this place for 3, 5, 7, 10 years, or however long you want to hold on to it, and you've pushed your NOI as much as possible, you're going to get, and of course, inflation and market changes and so on, you're going to get to a point where you might want to sell this property and you have forced the appreciation of the property quite a lot, along with inflation and market changes, and therefore you can captivate a much larger sales price of this property.
Great. All right, so the last one here is going to be our debt service coverage ratio. Oh, of course I mess up when I do that, right? So our debt service coverage ratio, right? So we can think of this one as dollars in versus dollars out. And let me move this down just a bit here so that we can keep everything on the screen for everybody. So again, just to reiterate, this covers the bank.
And in the case that you are seller financing this is a good ratio to have, just to say, hey, look, we've done our due diligence, we've done the underwriting, we know that our debt service coverage is good. Here's the ratio. You can explain it to the person if they don't know what it is. Usually they will, and just say, what we expect to bring in will be, this much more than the cost of our mortgage to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so how do we get there on it? So this one is our NOI divided by, it's, pretty easy, not too hard, divided by our debt service. And our debt service is our mortgage payment. So in writing those down for Lance and Jesse, they've been working on a deal, and I think it's interesting. And I told them with me and Justin kind of here today, that, you know, we could work a little bit on that letter, but we're kind of going to return an email based on what the broker sent over to us. So let's talk a little bit about that, Lance, and how we kind of formulated that initial email. We sent it out, and the response that you got today, because they were a little bit flustered when they got that response.
Yeah, let me see if I can grab real quick.
And just to kind of give everybody a background, Lance sent over a 16 unit. I think Justin, maybe you looked at that as well as me. And I think I got to a place on the offer where it made sense, right? The numbers made sense. We kind of formulated an email on an offer and sent that off. And then you'll kind of hear what we got back, right? It was almost a slap in the face.
Hang on a sec. I've got it. I'm pulling it up right now. I'm not that tech savvy. Move. Get out
That's
of
all
there.
right. That's all right.
Yeah, but it was almost laughable. Yeah, everything went up. Rather than negotiating and trying to, you know, get into an arena, it kind of went way outside of what it should have been. Rather than getting closer to our terms, it went further away, which was really unusual.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Like they brought back a higher offer price. I mean, I don't even know how you get there. So I think too, like Lance, you'll see with these numbers how you can put some justification into the email, right? So as we bake in another email, we're going to bake in some numbers to explain why we feel like this is just far left field, right?
Okay, we submitted basically 2 offers, you know. We always try and submit 2 to 3 different scenarios, you know, different options for them.
Sure.
And so the first one was, first up, the asking was $899 on this, I believe, and it went down from, I think, 1.1 million, you know, and it sat, didn't sell. So it went down to $899. So we basically, so it went down actually to $849. So our first offer was $899, 50,000 over asking, with $150,000 down payment, which is about 16.68% of the purchase price, $15,000 towards closing costs, $750,000 seller finance at 3% on a 30-year amortization schedule. Monthly payment principal interest was going to be about $3,100. 10-year balloon payout, contingent or appraisal contingency, obviously, and approximate payout would be $569,388, and then approximate amount to seller at the end of the 10-year period, including interest, would be $1,098,326. And so we had wrote that the down payment would be placed into an LLC between our company and owner. The owner would be given this as a consultancy fee for helping us structure a creative finance deal. This would not be captured as a down payment, but as a consultancy fee. Capital gains would be circumvented here, right? So, and then the second offer was basically a little tweaked, $849. So the original asking, with the $200,000 down payment that they wanted, and $15,000 towards closing, and then let's see, seller finance the rest $649 at 4% on a 30-year amortization schedule. Monthly payments and interest would be $3,098. 10-year 120-month balloon payout. Again, on appraisal, the approximate payout $511,300. Approximate amount paid to seller at the end of the 10-year period, including interest, would have been $1,083,000 and some change. And so with this, the down payment would be placed in an LSC. Same thing, basically. And a balloon payment could be scheduled as soon as 7 years with this same proposed interest term is what we offered them. And so, and they fired back, oh, geez, just a day later. I think we just sent that out yesterday. We got an email back from the agent. Good afternoon. Thanks for the interest in the offer of the property. We may be able to work things out at $900,000 purchase price, 6% interest with a $200,000 down and a 5-year balloon payment. Also, some other things that would be helpful to know are listed below. How soon would you be closing? What due diligence documentation is still needed, if any? If any, that's great. I'm going to call here shortly, but wanted to reach out and ensure I sent this. This was from Michael, the realtor. Yeah, so that was kind of funny.
I think the biggest slap in the face on that is the 5-year balloon. I'm like,
Right.
you know, how does the cash flow justify the balloon? I don't see that.
No, that's no deal there. It's already, the numbers are already fairly tight. You know, we're trying to get it cash flowing enough to make it, to have the deal make sense in the first place. So it's yeah, this guy's pretty tight on his numbers.
You have any thoughts on it, Justin? So I mean, I think initially, you know, my thought was, you know, if we can reduce your capital gains tax, or, you know, give you your offer price, but you got to reduce the down payment some, but we have to extend out that balloon so that we recover, you know, some of the money that we've put into it with the cash flow, right?
I mean, 5-year balloon might not be, well, if you think of the market, you know, you would expect the market to be back up in 5 years. So you could, that could be your exit strategy, is selling this thing in 5 years. I don't know what you're thinking about, Lance, as far as your hold strategy. What was your exit plan here?
It would be to liquidate, you know, to sell.
Sell after how many years? 7 or 10 years, though, is what you were thinking. Yeah,
well, we were thinking of splitting up the tax lot actually and selling the buildings separately, so we could get a higher return.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that in general can happen a lot faster than you anticipate, though. I mean,
right.
You know, if you could probably walk away. You know, if you were to sell this thing in 3 years, and just sell it by itself, you know, you could walk away with one asking price. But if you sell the two separately, then you might be able to walk away with, you know, 30% more,
right,
just by splitting the properties up.
So my question is this, though, right? The 200,000 is not the only entry, right? There's some renovation fee in there. There's like, so what's the actual entry on this one, Lance?
Oh, sheesh. My wife's been working on this. I couldn't tell you, but I know it's like an additional, 115,000. Okay. I was close. 115,000 in reno and just startup costs, basically.
So we're 300, basically 315 in, and you've still got to pay the broker, you've still got to pay closing, all of that. So yeah, I just don't see where I don't see where they're coming from on that. I mean, the entry fee is almost a quarter, if not more than a quarter, of the asking price.
What's your thought on why they're asking for a higher price? I mean, their original asking price was $849, you said?
Yeah.
And they were open to seller finance, but they wanted a larger down payment than what you proposed?
Right. Yeah. They raised the interest and the overall cost and the down payment, everything. So basically they're higher than they were asking before at the same terms now. I don't know how that happened. So yeah, it's really odd. I don't know what they're thinking.
I mean,
It's been sitting.
I think you respond to their email with just a book recommendation of The Art of Negotiation or something like that.
Right.
Because that's not how you negotiate.
I think number one, we've got the wrong idea about negotiation.
Right.
That's number one, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other one is the 6%. I mean,
Right.
I'm trying to figure that out as well. But
What was the original interest rate they were mentioning? What were the original terms? Can you just spout those off to me?
I don't know exactly. I think the original term when they wanted 4% and 849 with 200,000 down and a 4% interest rate. They were going to carry that. Oh, sheesh, I don't know exactly. 30 year, yeah, on a 30-year note. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I think that we put a balloon and 10 on that, didn't we? Or was it 7? 7
Yeah,
or
we
10?
typically, I've never asked for less than 7. Any rule, that's like rule of thumb, right? 7 to 10 years. So.
I mean, I felt like that was a pretty
good offer. I mean,
yeah,
you're hitting their asking price, and you're trying to reduce their tax burden.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They walk away with more money by doing it that way.
Yeah. And the good news is that they have an offer, at least from us. So if they sit on it for another month or two, we'll fire back and try and get into some better actual negotiations with them. But it's been sitting for a while, man. They're just asking too much. So
I think I would definitely, and so as I was saying today, like we can sit down and formulate an email, but I think we're gonna have to formulate an email with some numbers that make sense for them, right? So this is why we're offering it this way, right? This is what the numbers look like to us, and we're probably gonna have to formulate that, in the actual email, for that to maybe drive home and make sense. But I don't know, man. 100% it would be telling the broker, at the current email that you shot back to us, that offer doesn't make sense. Not in this universe, not in any other.
Right. Yeah. And this is a good example of why you don't just get stuck on one deal, because we've got a bunch of other stuff we're working on. I know a lot of rookies will get stuck or too emotionally invested into one property, and that's kind of tough sometimes to move on and just keep looking for deals. Don't ever get stuck on just one thing you're hoping on,
Yeah, it's the hardest, man.
Right? Yeah.
So, hey, I guess kind of for me, Justin, then I guess one other thing that I wanted to focus on was like value adds. So as we were talking about kind of analyzing this deal, then as we're looking at it, hitting on some value adds. And of course, in that information, they talked about 3 major value adds. And I think this is something that plays into your deal as well, Lance. Because we have to figure out where the value adds are, right? And then explain kind of the cost of some of those things. Hey, we've got to refurbish the building, we've got to do some of this stuff. There is some additional cost baked in here. So it's not just the 200,000 to the owner. But I know on the major value adds, they were talking about low rents. So this is obviously first. And then we have low occupancy. I'm just going to abbreviate that. And they were saying that they want occupancy as they're initially looking at a deal to be somewhere between 80 and 85%. Can you expand on that just a little bit, Justin, to help? Because I think obviously we're looking to, bring that occupancy more to 90, 95%. But is there something magical about that 80, 85 or 75% number?
Well, it is in the world of syndication. It is factored into a conventional loan with Fannie and Freddie Mac. are Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So the debt service ratio comes into factor, and the occupancy rate comes into factor. Occupancy, a low occupancy could also mean that the rents are too high, right? A 100% occupancy would mean that the rents are too low and that you need to raise rents. So you kind of want to be in the 90 to 95% range of rents. My guess on the occupancy of this place is just that I know it's sort of in a rural location, right? And so there just might not be the amount of population needed, or it just might be that people are looking for a nicer place.
Yeah.
At a similar cost. I don't know.
What are occupancies at on that place, Lance?
I don't know.
You don't know. That's a
I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, no problems, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
so-
Jesse said 85. She's eavesdropping on me making dinner, but
Yeah, no problem.
Well, then that's within
It's not
range.
bad.
That feels
Yeah.
good.
but it definitely needs to updates. It's pretty run down. It's not like in really bad shape, but it's definitely dated.
Well, but
and
I think
low
people are-
occupancy could also mean that they're not marketing towards,
Right.
getting more people in there.
Yeah, well, this
they
guy
might
is
be
managing.
comfortable with the amount of cash that's flowing in, and doesn't really have the interest in driving up the occupancy.
Well, yeah, he owns it free and clear, and he lives on the property as the property manager in one of the units.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I think that you had said also though that the rents were low, right? So they're not at market rate. So it seems like there's some room to move those rents up. And then hopefully in tune, maybe move that occupancy up by doing some marketing and some of those additional things to drive people in, because I know out there the oil field is the driver, right? There's oil field workers out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Those
a
guys-
perfect midterm rental opportunity.
Oh, that's
in
a
my
good point.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Those guys, they move from oil field to oil field. They're up in Montana, they're in Texas, they're in Alaska, they're moving to wherever the best offer is. They do make quite a lot of money, so they might be looking for a better looking place than this, maybe a house or something. But someone who's transient in that situation, definitely market towards them.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, Justin, that the companies are paying per diem. So and these guys are really well paid. They can definitely afford stuff like that.
Yeah, actually, I was on a Zoom earlier with the gal who was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and they right near the docks, she said that these big freightliners will come in and these ships will come in and these guys will stay there for sometimes a few months at a time, and it's a huge market for midterm rentals, kind of similar to this. You can definitely increase your cash flow quite a bit with those.
It keeps sounding like a good deal more and more and more.
Right.
Just
it's got to pencil out for long term though first, always. So
and the last one is high expenses, which I don't think that we will probably see on this particular property. And they were saying that Justin, they were gauging 50% to be the marker. And anything higher than 50%, right? You want it kind of 50% or below, right? And I would say probably 49% or below. So can we talk just a little bit about that in terms of, when I'm looking at a property and I'm looking at those expenses, how am I coming to understand, hey, these expenses are too high. Maybe this is a place where I can bring expenses down.
Well, every market has has its rules of thumb, but there's general rules of thumb. You know, it might be that their property management company is charging too much, right? And so you might want to go out and look for a new property management company and get a couple different bids and go with you know, person that really has the most experience, but also maybe a mid-level quote, not the cheapest, not the most expensive. You know, expenses can also mean they're paying for utilities, and we've talked about utility bill backs before. And that really depends on whether the market it's already in place in the market. So depends on whether other you know, other apartment buildings around the area are doing the same thing, or if they're all utilities paid. Because you don't want to be the only person doing billing back the utilities. It, you know, it could mean that their contract services need to be renegotiated, like lawn and maintenance care. Just in general, it's a high expenses sort of indicates really a mismanagement of the property a little bit, because they're not going out and trying to be competitive, get the competitive prices for things out there, right?
And so one of the ways that I found that this tied, you know, like all of this tied in really well, is where they started talking about a quick and dirty, you know, kind of a fair market value, quick and dirty way to do that. And so the way that they were showing this, and then I guess like how you can kind of figure out where your expenses are at and maybe how to dial them in. But they were talking about an adjusted gross income, or excuse me, adjusted gross rent minus adjustments. And this was a question that I had because it was a little vague. They kind of quantitated these as vacancies, and they were kind of looking at that as an overall of 10%. Concessions, and then bad debt.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, well, that's like, it was kind of vague, right? I didn't quite totally understand, you know, like I get the vacancies part.
Yeah, right. Concessions are generally like, you know, you kind of, you know, in the first couple of years, or really the first year, you kind of want to hold on to the tenants that are there just to stabilize a property, so that you have that cash flow, unless you feel like you can hold on a second. I got regrets coming in.
I get it.
But a concession would be, you know, as you know, it costs money to for someone to move out and for you to flip a property, and sometimes it might be better for you to hold on to that tenant. And a concession might be you want to bring market rents up to $950, but they don't want to pay that much, and so you do a concession of $50 a month or something like that, right? Or you do another concession would be first month's free, or something like that. Bad debt is essentially when someone can't pay, and so you might have bad debt because someone's missed their payment that month.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that gives you a more accurate reading on your NOI, because
so can you talk about, so vacancies is obvious, right? It would be, you know, listed out in the T12. But in terms of concessions and bad debt, would you generally find those in the expenses section?
Yes. Yeah, it would be in the expenses section.
Yeah, and I wanted to tie those together just for some people that don't know. I'd be looking at the vacancies and that vacancy rate in the T12, and I'm going to be coming back to the expenses and looking at concessions and bad debt.
Right.
Yeah, so another way, and for some, there are you don't get financials, and so I thought that there was for some of these maybe smaller 10 units or whatever. And I thought that they had a fairly interesting way of coming up with that. So the second one was the average monthly rent times the total number of units. Now, on the average monthly rents, I guess you're just taking all of the rents and running an average on them, right?
Right.
Okay. So I thought that this was an interesting way to kind of get to the same place as the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you would basically take that, I guess what would be that the expenses kind of finally, and you would divide those by your adjusted gross income, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's either going to be this adjusted gross rents minus the adjustments, or it's going to be the average monthly rent times the total number of units. But either way, we're dividing by those, and then that will give us some sort of an expense ratio, right? So to me, like, if you wanted to, you could effectively kind of sit down and say, well, like, I've got this napkin underwrite, after my 1%, that could tell me a lot about the property.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you could add, Justin, that you might like, hey, I'm just trying to do a napkin underwrite before I bring it, before I bring it, for an actual underwrite on the spreadsheet that might indicate, hey, this might make a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think the value adds, always looking at the OM and seeing where you can, where you can value add, because you can potentially make up for paying a higher price by adding quite a lot of value. So, let's say someone's ran this property really well, and they're at market rents, and 90% of the units are fixed up, and they're charging for pet rent, and they're charging for parking, and they're charging for valet trash, and they have state-of-the-art laundry. You can contract out laundry services and actually get money back from the laundry service. And it's, in a sense, they've squeezed all the juice out of this property, right? If 90% of the units are fixed up and it's running like a top, then you would want to make sure that you're getting a pretty good purchase price on that, because you don't have a lot of value add that can be added. So a lot can be said in the OM around value adds. We talked about this in previous meetings, but demographics definitely play into whether it's a good market to be in or not. And not so hot market can be overcome by a good asking price. But you want to know that there's job growth, that there is there are people moving in, and that the people that are going to be living in your apartments can actually afford your apartments, right? So, we always hear about that your expenses should be 30% or your living expenses should be 30% of your income, right? And so if it's above that, these days it's getting to 40% maybe, but if it's above that, then people are going to be struggling, and you might have tenants that can't pay their bills, right? So that's an important thing to know too. But I think this is knowing that stuff is sort of something that you want to accomplish, I think, beforehand, before you even pursue some of these deals, right? You just want to know that you're in a good market. And then, I think just making sure, you tick the 3 boxes, or you come very close to it. It's not, like you said, it's not the end all be all. Your debt service coverage might be low. You can get private money, or you could do a bridge loan and push your NOI, and then your debt service comes up, and then you can refinance your loan. Your cash on cash might be a little low, but that there are a lot of value adds that can be added, and you can push your cash on cash. So it can be very subjective, I guess, sometimes, but you just need to make sure you're hitting a couple of those boxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, I kind of threw up a buy box. Just briefly, right? C-, C+ properties in AB neighborhoods, 20 to 150 units, landlord friendly states. So what I'm going to reiterate on today, guys, is yes, we are a group that definitely wants to bring value and show people and teach people. But we also want to be bringing deals to ourselves so that, we can continue to work on deals. And so I think that I've had a lot of questions from people about how can we do that. And also in looking at the information that you gave me, and you can add to this, Justin, but property managers are good people to know. But we also know from last week with Gabe Hamill, when he came in, it's so funny because you hear so many different ways that people go about this.
Yep.
And it sounded like to me, like, hey, I'm not, when I first got started, I wasn't doing all these deep underwrites. I was just trying to get into my first deal, and I was networking my way there. I was talking to people, and I was trying to see, somebody that would do a deal with me. And I would say, probably first and foremost that I want to put up here is network, right? Always talking to people in the industry, always building relationships. Guys, if we're not networking and we're not out talking to people, the deals are never going to come. So
that's right.
I guess, and this is for me too. I need to get out there and start making calls. I made a dedication to myself today that I'm going to start sticking to my KPIs on Mojo Dialer, and I'm going to start getting in there, and I'm going to start making, more contacts with property managers, with brokers, and anybody else that you can think of, Justin, property managers, brokers, network, agents. Anybody else you can think of?
I mean, those are great. I think being in groups like this are great. Being on these Zooms, meeting new people, I think opens the doors, right?
Yeah. Social media
sellers themselves, like Violet says. anybody you come across in public, you don't know, you have no idea what their situation is. They could be someone trying to sell a property. You don't know that, right? So
Well-
it's really good to talk about real estate whenever you're just out in public.
All the time. For
All the
me
time.
personally, all the time.
Yeah.
Everybody I meet, basically, that's all I talk about.
Yeah.
You know, like literally. So I got a cool example today. There's this old 1910 house in Bullard where I'm at here. Like there's 3,000 people here, right? And we're really close to Tyler, and there's like 250,000 people. That's our main target. But Bullard, there's this old 1910 house. This guy was trying to sell it for $275. Sat on the market for like 6 months, reduced it down to $199. And this thing needs a lot of work. It looks like it last update was in 1965, you know? So, but it's got cool structure, cool. It's got the old like 12-inch baseboards and stuff, original, you know, some original hardwood floors under the carpet. So I was talking to the guy, and come to find out he's an investor also, because I had a conversation with him about terms. And if you don't ask, you don't get, you know? So I started talking to him a few weeks ago, and nothing really came of it. He was really cool though. He was open to me getting some contractors out there to get an idea on some costs before I tried to lock it up or anything in the contract. And so in the meantime, we ended up getting these other deals that we're working on that are bigger and way better. And so I kind of like put it on the back burner. Well, I called him today just to touch base. And I said, hey, look, because at my last meetup, I actually talked to one of the a couple there does flips, and they don't have anything right now. I said, man, we actually had already designed, had figured out a design for this place to turn it into a 1-1 and a 2-2 duplex, and it would be like worth way more, you know. And I pitched it to them, and they were really interested. So I called him today to see if I could get a like a referral fee from the owner if I hooked them up with this couple. And he's like, well, honestly, man, I'd be interested in that, but I just leased it or, rented it to this guy for about 3 to 6 months. He's like, turns out I put it out on Facebook, and there was a bunch of people who wanted to rent it, but he still wants to sell it. I said, well, cool. I found this couple. When you're ready to, talk about selling it again, that would want to, renovate it. And I said, I started this group here. He's like, you did? He's like, oh man, I want to go to that. And he's like, oh, hey, and then I told him about this apartment building that I briefly talked to Damon about. It's a 12-unit, brand new. It's in probate. I won't get into all the details, but I mentioned that I found it, and it's on 4 acres here. He goes, man, I'd be interested in that. I got a group I'm in, and we could bring a lot of money to the table and all this. He starts going on and on. I was like, holy shit, pardon my language, but like, dude, if I wouldn't have kept the conversation going and just brought that up, I would have never known that. You never know who's got a ton of money just sitting right in front of your face. This guy, jeans and t-shirt, good old boy. You'd never know it. Most of these guys, these old timers with cash, you can't tell. They don't drive fancy cars and they don't have fancy houses, but they got a boatload of money, or they know a bunch of people who have a boatload of money. So there's a huge connection. Please invite me, to your next, group, your next meetup, man. I'd love to go. And he kept going back. He's like, those are exactly actually the types of properties we're looking for right now. So it could be a really cool connection.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think a great adage to keep in mind is the buyer is a seller as an investor.
Mm-hmm.
And in some of these multifamily properties, they know these things inside and out. And so, they might be wanting to sell, but they might also want to invest in you and your property, and because they know the property, and if you can instill confidence in them, they might lend you the money to fix up the place, right? So
so I think I would add to that, if you listen to Gabe Hamel's story, he didn't have all of the things that this particular group has available to it. I mean, you got Justin, who's a great underwriter. You got, me, Lance, and Matt in here, and Juan that, sub 2, always looking and trying to figure out creative ways to structure deals. I'm always talking to Pace, right? And so I feel like we're almost a leg up from where he was when he first started, because we're coming in with the attitude, hey, we want to sub two, we want to seller finance, we want to get into these deals at low entry costs, right?
Absolutely.
And so in light of that, what I would tell people in this group, and what I'm conveying to people that are coming in and wanting to be involved with the group, and it's KPIs. Like, we all, I think, need to go out and rededicate ourselves. Not Lance, because he's always talking to people, but me. I get busy, man. And so
Right.
I need to start reaching out on the phones. I got to start talking to people. And I have dedicated myself to come into our next meeting with at least like 2 to 3 viable properties that we can take a look at. Right. And I'm just going to continue to dedicate myself to that. And, speaking of Lance's story, I ran into a guy today, phenomenal guy in the sub 2 group, that came across one of our posts and reached out to me. We start talking, and this guy is doing $2.5 million a year in Airbnb arbitrage.
Whoa.
He's gone to the apartment building road, right? He's like, I'm looking at apartment buildings, they're not renting, we're going in, we're doing Airbnb arbitrage leases with them. He's like, I started with 1 in 2020 and I'm now at 45.
Oh, wow.
And you know what the next thing out of my mouth was? How can I be like you? How do I do that? Can you help me? And he was like, tell me your story. I told him a little bit about me, being a vet, blah, blah, blah. Well, sure enough, he's like, man, let's get in contact. I've been looking in San Antonio. I want you to be my go-to. And I was like, look, man, any way I can get into this deal, I will look. I will be boots on the ground, San Antonio. We will find stuff, right? So, yeah, I'm just making a rededication of putting in the work, right?
Yeah, you dropped a gold nugget there too, man. You've added value. You offered to add value to him, and that's what most people are looking for. Without saying it, adding value to these private money lenders and these other investors who are farther along the path than we are. You said you would look at properties for and be boots on the ground. That's a huge value add. So we got to be mindful of that, not just asking, hey, I want to do this. What can you do for me? We've got to be, offering value right up front to these people. And that's how we're going to make those connections, so.
Yeah, definitely. So one more thing I wanted to bring up for Lance, the group. I don't know how you guys would feel. My wife really wants me to go take my kids to jiu-jitsu on Thursdays. So we can keep the 2 days a week, but I'm wondering if I can go to 1 day a week. And part of that is because there are some big things in the works, guys, that me and Lance and a couple of others have been working on. Like I am working on bringing private money lenders in. I've already contacted one who's in the sub 2 group. And she is all about wanting to come into the group and talk to us about how she got it started, private money lending, how she incorporated the whole thing, how she started the business, LLCs, how she gets the credit to get there, what she looks for out of people that she wants to do private money lending deals with. And she's going to bring kind of a standardized sheet to us on deals that we can bring to her that would basically, she'd be like ready to look at it, because she was saying the same thing Lance was today. She was like, a lot of people approach me in a very professional way. And then some people approach me like, hey, how can I get some money from you?
Right.
Yeah. Like that's not how it works. That's not how we do this.
Doesn't work well. I also actually might be able to, so that's our goal. Mine and Damon, we decided to team up. I told him I was all in on it, and I would, our main goal is to bring as much value as we can and grow this, our viewer base, obviously, and reach out to other people who can add value to this group. And like today I was on the several phone calls. Actually, I like to do video chats with people. And so I was video chatting away, and I I actually ended up stumbling upon this person who's actually sub 2, but their focus is strictly on raw land purchases, and then they sell it to developers and they make a ton of money, dude. And so we're talking like, I mean, and she was saying like this one deal, she's literally going to turn it from a 2.4 million to a 5 million, like type of deal. And it's insane. So it'd be really cool to get people like that on here, just different avenues.
Yeah, for sure. And so one of the additional things that I'm going to add to this, and kind of the way that I was talking, I guess, about going to 1 day a week and seeing how everybody felt, was that I think during the week we can really kind of build like, hey, this is all the value that we're going to bring into this day during the week. But we're talking about doing the Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Zoom /podcast, where we can bring, different people on to talk and talk about the industry, and, Vina Jetty and Pace and other people that, can come in and bring serious value, right? So I don't know how you guys feel about that. I think it would almost be beneficial to go to 1 day a week so that we could just stack a meeting full.
Yeah,
I think so.
I agree with that. And I would say, people use that time that we're on here during that hour to go call brokers and go make contacts, and instead
100%.
of, instead of being on here, which is also beneficial, but we want to bring deals to people, and them to bring deals to the group, and we'll stumble forward, right?
Yeah, man. I mean,
yep.
And I'm the first one to say I'm an elephant leader. I got into this and I've been learning ever since, right? I'm failing forward every step of the way. But all that I know when I do this is like, I have this undying want to bring value to other people. Because that's just that. I mean, that's who I am, And so at the end of the day, just look towards some big changes coming, and kind of taking this thing to the next level, bring people in. And so I would love to maybe like, what do you guys think? Like on a good day for everyone, a Friday or a Monday, or I could tell you like Mondays and Wednesdays are pretty rough for me. Tuesdays would be good. Fridays would be good. Thursdays wouldn't be bad, but we would have to wait until later in the day, like maybe 7 o'clock. Does anybody have like ideas on what days might work out best, times might work out best?
Are Tuesdays good for you? You said no.
Tuesdays are good for me.
I think Tuesday's a good day for me. I think that works for a lot of us, but I've got our meetup here is every other Monday, so that would be a good day for me.
Okay. Justin, could you make like Tuesdays one day a week?
Yep.
Okay.
I love that. Kate says sub Tuesdays. That's
sub
awesome.
Tuesdays.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah. And the other thing that I want to focus on too is like, hey, Matt, are you there, man?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
So I want people, especially you're a sub 2, man. Like, I want everybody to be active in here. I'm not forcing. You can be a fly on the wall. That's okay. But I want like for you, if you can see value add, if you can tell us how to improve things, we're all about that. And we want to there's an elephant challenge coming up on the 20th. It starts tomorrow. And I'm going to be vying to bring people into this room and start calling, right? So if you can think of ways that you feel like we could improve it, which would get you more engaged and other people more engaged, that's what we want. Do you have any thoughts?
I'm not sure right off the top of my head, but one thing I wasn't sure if it would be valuable is would it make sense for people to, kind of new people coming in, to do like a real quick and dirty kind of underwrite, and then they could kind of bring it to me for a napkin before it comes to you, just to kind of free a little bit of time from you and Justin?
Yeah,
Would that be something that helps you guys?
Yeah, because the deep underwrites are labor. I mean, I don't want to say labor intensive. That's
Yeah.
probably a strong word, but they are
Yeah.
more intensive.
Mhm.
And especially guys, like I think we've set the groundwork for this next elephant challenge to really bring people in and start getting them calling, right?
Yeah.
We've done a lot of this stuff, and we can bring people in to talk and all of that. But I definitely think that we need to have a system of progression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something I would love
Marketing,
to talk about.
better marketing, and flyers, and there's a lot of things a lot of ideas I have too that I want to talk to you about, Damon. But because I've been on a ton of Zooms, and JJ and a couple of guys are doing some Justin Hoke. They're training other students on how to do podcasts and all kinds of cool stuff, tricks and stuff to do. So there's a ton of stuff there. I think we should start hopping on some of those Zooms to learn, more of the tricks,
I'm
dude.
100% down with that. If you could just point me to those Zooms or those times, man, I'll join in, and
Yeah.
I'll do
Okay.
whatever I can to help improve things and better it. Because again, like I told you at the beginning of the year, my want is to get into short-term, midterm rental this year, laundromat, and at least one multifamily deal. I mean,
Yeah.
even if I could just say I almost got there with it, right? Like, I mean, that would be something, but I really, really would like those three things to happen this year. And if nothing else, the multifamily deal takes precedence over them all.
Yeah. Kate's offering to help with some of the marketing. So that'd be awesome. Flyers and stuff. That'd be awesome,
Beautiful.
Kate.
Thank you. Yeah, so I guess me and Lance, in kind of wrapping up, me and Lance will get together. Justin, you're also a major piece of this, man, because I would say you're the most experienced overall in terms of like, I think just the ins and the outs of multifamily and getting there. Like, I can work to structure the deals, but the underwrite, you're definitely the strongest on. I can do them, but I'm still not as confident as you. But yeah, I think like maybe me and Lance could get together, maybe with me, Lance, and Justin, like we could get together and start to formulate like what we think that looks like. Cause I want to hit the ground running tomorrow with this elephant challenge, and I'm going to be gunning to bring people into this room. So
Yeah, absolutely.
be
And
prepared.
I got to hop off, but one of
Okay.
the best videos I think that we did was when you and Justin talked to the realtor. I think that was super cool to hear that. That strategy that you laid out, man, was money. Like I got the most value out of that, just because like for those of us taking action, those are the like pieces of the puzzle that are hard to, when you hear actual negotiations like that, super gold right there.
Yeah.
Fire.
Well, let's look at this next Tuesday. Let's get in here and make some phone calls, right? I don't know. Will it be too late? 5 o'clock? That might be a little late, but we can try.
On
right?
a Friday.
Yeah. Well, 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, right? Our next meeting will be
Our next meeting. Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
our
you
next
meant,
meeting will be
the elephant challenge.
Oh,
I think
no,
it's
no, no.
perfect. Most people are home from work after 5. So.
Yeah. So let's look next Tuesday. I think we'll hop in here and make a bunch of phone calls, and then
Nice.
Kate, I will get with you about the marketing stuff and how I think we could build that. Cool.
Yep.
And guys, I truly appreciate you all. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you giving me your time and helping me fail forward on this and improve every step of the way. I promise
Likewise,
you we're gonna get there.
Damon, for sure.
All right, guys.
Appreciate you.
Oh,
Hi,
awesome.
dude.
Thank
All
you.
right, guys, let's do this.
All right, bye.